Okay.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. This is going to be our first, not only audio recording, but video recording.
It's not our first audio recording.
No, you're right. It's going to be our first video recording.
Video recording.
It's our 16th audio recording.
We spent hours doing hair and makeup prior to, right?
Right. And whoever did it is fired because this doesn't look great. Yeah. How have you been?
Good. It's been fairly busy, but uneventful. Did a lot of football watching this weekend. A lot. Because with the Eagles not playing on Sunday, I still wanted to watch football on Sunday because that's just what Sundays are for now that we entered football season.
Right.
And then the commitment was to Monday night, which I don't love, school night, an 8:15 game, which was so unbelievably upsetting at what happened. But as an Eagles fan, you kind of have to manage your expectations.
Yeah. Sundays for me are for getting over hangovers, laying on the couch, not doing anything, barely any work involved. If I feel up to it, I'll mow the lawn. But you've been over my house. We have a beautiful lawn.
The clippers?
It's a city lawn. It's the size of a big postage stamp. So I have a weed whacker that I cut our lawn with, and it takes me literally 5 seconds to cut. But it needs to happen because anybody else who lives in a city, you will know this. There's weird weeds that grow in cities that if you don't trim them or pull them up at the first hint that they're growing, you come out the next day and it's like a giant swamp tree.
And then the bugs.
And then the bugs. And then it's like Jurassic Park. And it happens very quickly because nature wants to reclaim what's hers. So if you don't stay on top of it, especially in a city, you will get overtaken by nature. So we've reached an equilibrium.
But I love a weed whacker. I think they're fun.
I like them more than actual mowers. I grew up on a huge farm up above like 2 hours north of Philadelphia. So I'm used to like riding mowers and like acres of grass I needed to cut every week.
Right.
And yeah, this is a piece of cake for me.
Yeah, I grew up on whoa. All right.
You're right.
Back
to one, everybody.
I grew up on 7 acres. So we had the tractor too. And I love riding a tractor more than a weed whacker. But weed whacker would probably come in second. A leaf blower is also very enjoyable.
We have a leaf blower too. We just got one.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun.
It blows and it sucks.
Yes, most of them do, I think now.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I'm old because I'm used to just like you buy one that blows and you buy one that sucks. Now they're all together.
And it comes with a little bag.
It does.
Baggy.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for joining us on Tool Time. Glad everybody can make it. This is actually, I'm excited about today because our last episode was all about leadership, what makes a good leader. Mm-hmm. And we name dropped somebody really famous and important who listened to the episode and she was like, listen, you better have me on or I'm going to sue your asses into oblivion. And we were like, okay, no, she's wonderful. She is a friend of mine from the coaching world. And she was available and agreed to be on the show today to continue the conversation from last week. So this week we're going to touch on more leadership stuff, but she's brought questions and we have questions. So we're going to live up to the name of, hey, let me ask you something. So she is a coach. She's a leadership expert. She's been teaching leadership workshops now, as far as I can remember, and I'm 45 years old. So she's been doing it forever. Please welcome to the show, Sarah Kay is here.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Excited that you're here.
Yes.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So you listened to the last episode. Give it to us straight. How long do we have in the business?
I mean, you're basically experts now, and I think you've got a huge future in leadership coaching. Huge.
Huge.
Gigantic.
Huge. It's gigantic. Oh, that's very nice of you to say. I was looking for like your 15 minutes are up. Pack your bag.
Oh yeah, no. Gosh, no. The thing about leadership is that there's so much to cover. I mean, you guys could just do the podcast on leadership and never cover the same thing twice.
I love that because
There's
that's
so
why
much.
we have you now.
There's so much. Yeah.
Right? So first of all, what attracted you to coaching in the first place?
How much time do we have? So
about 30 minutes now.
Coach, so let's get to it.
Get to it.
So my background is in HR. I have my master's in HR. I was in HR for about 15 years in the corporate world. And at some point about 6 years ago, my husband and I decided to leave the corporate world, and we started moving around the world every few years through diplomacy. My husband is a diplomat. And
la-di-da-di.
It was, yes, we're every night we have our wine and our, so when we did that, the corporate world was kind of in the rear view mirror for me. And I was like, what can I take from the HR world that I really loved? There are some things that I'm happy to have left behind. And I plucked out the coaching piece and the leadership development piece, which I'm in love with that space, and decided to make it my own. So that's when I really pursued coaching more as an external coach versus being on the inside in HR. And yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last, I guess now 6 years, which
holy cow.
Fun. It's fun. Yeah.
Right. What do you love about leadership so much?
You know, I love it now. I think leadership has changed so much over the last, even few years, decade, where we're really pushing people to bring their true selves to leadership. And I'm all about, you and I have talked about this, Ralph, in the past. I'm all about being authentic and true to who you are and bringing your best self to every situation. And I think that's really where leadership is now. So for me, it feels very authentic to who I am to be talking about leadership and pushing people in the working space to really embrace that authenticity. So it's a fun time. And if we're not here to have fun, then why the hell are we here? So I enjoy it.
Point, right?
What is the point?
We always have fun.
You have to. Right? I'm not a brain surgeon, so I can play a little bit more easily than other fields. So it's a fun one to be in.
I'd love for us to have an actual brain surgeon on one time, so I can say, listen, it's not brain surgery, and they'd be like, actually, yes.
They would think we were ridiculous.
Yeah. They would sign off immediately, and we'd have to fill the rest of the 40
That would
minutes.
Be it.
Yeah.
You call me back on, and I would say,
you're going to be our backup guest no matter what.
That's right. I'll be ready.
What was your favorite city to live in? Because you've lived in Ottawa, you've lived in, I'm going to test myself.
Okay.
Nogales. Mm-hmm. Right? You've lived in Santiago, Chile, Ottawa, and then it blanks after that. Where else have you been?
So those are the three international places. We spent about a decade in Chicago, living our best lives there, eating and drinking our way through the city, which was amazing. That's where we had our 2 kids. Our third one came in Santiago. But my favorite city, the hardest move for me was the first move from Chicago to Nogales, and fetal position, sucking my thumb in the corner, bawling my eyes out, sort of hard. And I left I left that space 2 years later doing the same exact thing, but out of happiness and being sad to leave. And it became such an amazing place with amazing people. And that, I would say that was probably my favorite. Having a child in Santiago was obviously really special for those reasons, but as a place to live, it was pretty incredible, pretty transformational for me.
That's awesome. Do you have any
follow-up questions? That's just incredible. That sounds like such an amazing journey and experience, and to start your family moving around like that.
It's been really fun. It's been hard. I lived in the same house for, my whole life, pretty much. And so to move around every few years has really challenged me. I mean, it's all about pushing yourself past those comfort zones, right? So I'm here to tell you, I've done that, and it's worth it. It's worth it once you get to the other side, but it's been enjoyable. It's a different type of life. It's fun.
Good.
Yeah.
So let's dig into it.
Let's do it.
Shall we?
I'm ready.
So we did have a show last week about leadership. We can touch on that if you have anything to add about that. I know you've brought question or questions. So what do you got for us? Lay it on us.
So, I think that it's really important, of course, to name what makes someone a great leader, right? We can learn all of these tools. We can write it down on paper. What I find to be equally as interesting and, really a little bit more challenging to kind of dig through is what gets in the way of getting to those great qualities that makes a great leader. What are the obstacles? What are the challenges? So my question for us to chat about is, what gets in the way of great leadership? What are the hurdles that people have to jump over to get to all the great things that you guys listed last week? So many hurdles,
right? We both oohed at the same time. What did you ooh about?
Ooh, I just love that angle, coming from that angle of what, we spoke about everything that is. And when you said the question, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I know. Do I have anything to say? Anything to add?
Yeah. It's interesting because I look at it from two different ways about, when we coach somebody, we could think about the positives, what do you have going for you that makes you a good leader that you can work to improve. And then some people focus on the, like you said, what's standing in your way of being a good leader and embodying all those traits. And part of the process for coaching sometimes is saying, what do you have to address? What do you need to look at to get to that specific, just for that day? But it's interesting to think about it in general of what could get in somebody's way generally of being a good coach. And I'm going to go back to my old chestnut of communication, because in my brain, that's number one. Like if you are not good at communicating with people, you cannot be a good leader. So I think for me, number one on the list is somebody who has issues or just isn't comfortable talking to people.
Right. That's the layer to peel back. I think that yes, not being a great communicator is an obstacle. And why is it that you're not a great communicator? You're afraid to give tough feedback. You don't have the confidence to say what you really think. You are afraid of the repercussions, all of these layers that if you just think about communication on its own, you can just peel back all these challenges. So when you think about communication, Ralph, what would you say is the number one reason people aren't, or two or three or four,
right?
What are those reasons because communication is huge, obviously, in leadership. What are the reasons people are not being clear about what they expect, not giving tough feedback, not being honest, not speaking up when they need to? Why aren't people doing that?
Oof.
Why aren't they doing it, Ralph?
Oof, you're right. All right, everybody calm down.
Give us the answers.
I have an answer. Wow. Why would people be afraid to speak up? Self-confidence popped into my head. I think we're both advocates of that, Kristin, of self-confidence, self-awareness, self-advocacy, so I think being afraid of sharing your voice, stepping into that power and saying, I have an opinion. This is, I have feedback, good or bad, that needs to be shared. We have to do this thing. And I think stepping into that leadership role fully and being comfortable sharing your voice for all the things you said, fear of repercussions, fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of not being taken seriously. I mean, I know that one personally. You know, I when I was in a leadership role at my theater before it shut down, that was a big thing I was wrestling with, was like imposter syndrome of, why am I here? Are people going to listen to me? Am I the right person for this role? You know, so all that stuff happens in people's brains. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think you kind of said what I was thinking. I really do think a lot of it boils down to self-confidence and your own insecurities. Because that's, you know, maybe you can't give feedback or you don't communicate it because you're fearful of upsetting somebody else or hurting somebody's feelings or being wrong. If you don't trust your own knowledge of the job and what you're thinking or feeling about what's going on at work. So I think I equate leader with confident. I don't know. I was just trying to think in my head. I was like, is that right? I'm like, yeah, I think to be a leader, you have to be confident. I mean, not everybody has insecurities, of course. But as far as your role in the company and your hopefully your relationship with your staff, I think you have to have that confidence, or you can't be an effective leader. And this all does go back to the communication thing. And like you said, Sarah, like all the different layers that you can peel away underneath that. I really I don't know if that's simplifying it too much, but that's immediately what came to mind for me.
Well, my question for you, Sarah, you've been doing this specifically in the realm of leadership longer than we have. I mean, I'm just assuming, but I think you and I touch on it in some ways
absolutely.
with our clients, but you focus on it. So what do you see as the main obstacle that gets in people's way to embody being a good leader?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's so many reasons. So yeah, I specifically work with people leaders, people managers, people who are leading teams. So leadership, I mean, we can talk about leadership from like a business standpoint, of course. When I'm thinking about leadership right now and who I'm primarily working with it's helping people lead other people, right? So what is getting in the way of that type of leadership? Kristin, when you said competence, so I think that's such an important point, because it's where a lot of people get hung up when they are leaders, especially when they are new and making that shift from me, the individual contributor, to we, the leader of the team. Mm-hmm. And people think that I have to be confident because leaders are confident. This is how we see leadership. What they miss sometimes, and what gets in the way of being a great leader, is forgetting that confidence does not mean you don't make mistakes, right? Confidence means when mistakes happen, I will fix them. I will be able to find a solution to the problem, or, you know, my team and I will. And so we get hung up on, I need to know everything. And we become we try and be like this hero versus I'm here to lead a team of people to work through this. So I do think this concept of I need to know everything, I need to have all the answers, gets in the way a lot. I honestly think sometimes it's just truly a lack of learning that there's so much promotion that happens because people are really great at the technical or functional role, right? So, you know, David has done really well in analysis and reporting and works well with a client, and we're going to promote him into a senior or into a management role or a people leadership role. But we haven't given him one single ounce of training or any sort of coaching or mentorship around how to lead people. It's a totally different skill set. And that piece is missing a lot. And we spend a lot of that time at the top, the tippy top of organizations, when I don't want to say it's too little too late, but at that point, we've kind of missed that growth period. Ralph, your face, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Too little, too
man.
late.
Right. Oh my
Too
God.
many people up there. That ship has sailed for them.
That ship is gone over the
You
horizon.
suck. There's no turning back.
You brought up 3 really interesting things, and I want to mention all of them because I think they're super important. Number 1, the fear of failure. When we get into a management role, we're afraid to fail because good leaders don't fail. Well, of course they do. That's what learning is. That's what the human experience is. We don't learn anything unless we fail at it, or we have a setback, or however you want to phrase it. It's those moments of, oh, that didn't work out the way I expected. That's where we learn the most from, so being a good leader is not being afraid to fail. Number 2, being promoted without getting the training that you need. I think a lot of times, and correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody everybody likes her. She's great. She's, she gets along with everybody. People listen to her. She'd be a great leader. And then they promote her, and then she's thrown into this job, like you said, and they're like, I don't know, and then it turns out poorly, so having that apparatus in place, or that framework in place, if somebody is going to be a good leader, to put them through the process. So by, however many months later, they can emerge into their role ready to hit the ground running. And the third point is lost to the ages. I don't know.
It'll come to you in the middle of the night.
That was you last week. I went on, my brain loves to do that. It goes on a big diatribe, and then they're like, 1.3. I didn't say there was a third point.
When you said you have 3 points, I thought, did he write them down? Because I will be impressed if he remembers all 3.
Fear of failure.
So I'm not impressed. Sorry. You only got 2.
Fear of failure, getting put into the role. Crap.
It's okay. It'll come to you.
It usually comes back.
It'll come back.
It comes full circle. It happens to me in session, and then I'm like, it'll be back in a second. Yeah. Just pause, and there it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think that I was thinking, and I think I mentioned this last week, I was in a managerial role one time, and not only did I have no management experience, but it was a brand new program in the city of Philadelphia. So my gosh, I thought I was supposed to know things, but no one knew anything because it was literally so brand new. And that was just like thinking about that when you were talking. But I think that one of the things I mentioned last week is that, I look at a leader as a teacher also, and a role model. And I think that one of the things that might get in the way, and Sarah, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong here, is thinking you have to do everything perfect and you can't make a mistake. And that's actually poor role modeling to your staff, who may very well be afraid to mess up, or obviously concerned about their performance. And so seeing a leader make a mistake, own a mistake, fix the mistake, and being okay, and that all being okay is actually really good leadership and role modeling to the people that are looking up to them. That was the one thing I was thinking about.
That was my third point, not being an expert in the room. See, it came back.
There it is.
Told you. Well,
there it is.
It always does.
Man.
You can sleep well tonight. Thank
I'm gonna
goodness.
sleep like a baby tonight. Well, I'm interested to ask your opinion about that, Sarah, because I'm a big fan of, I don't know, being a very powerful place to be, especially if you're a leader. I don't know the answer to that. Tell me, like, who's got some good ideas? I think that's a great place to start a lot of times. But I can picture people pushing back and saying, no, if you're a leader, you have to know at least, something in your position. You can't just say, I don't know all the time. So what do you think is a good balance between, I don't know, being powerful versus I'm the leader and I have the answer?
Well, I guess it depends. The question that I think leaders often should use is, what do you think? Right? So leaders aren't supposed to know everything, and anyone that expects them to is living, in a little bit of a delusional world. You're a leader of a team of people, and you have this team of people to all work toward a common goal, right? I mean, this is what a team is about. What I think is really critical for leaders to do is solicit the input of their team. If you're hiring well, you're hiring people that are experts in what they do in their roles. And together you can figure out what the best thing. And yeah, sometimes you don't know. But I don't know if it's so much about that as much as it is we're an info gathering space right now to get to the right answer. It's about getting it right. So yeah, there's a balance. If you keep showing up to work and you keep saying, I don't know, you're going to lose credibility pretty fast. So you have to kind of pick and choose. It's really important to bring your teammates into the discussion, though, and not only for your own knowledge and around a topic, let's say, but one of the greatest ways you can engage your team is to have them feel like they're valued and what they're doing matters, and that you need their input. And so that's a great way to do it. Asking them, what do you think?
That's a nice one. I didn't think about it that way, of instead of saying, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah. I think, yeah, that sounds like a much better way of saying it. I was thinking about, I was trying to figure out how to say it when I was thinking. I was thinking about the importance of being a good listener as well. And when I say that, I mean, being your staff or your team feeling like they are heard, I think is a very, very critical part of being a good leader. And that you, not only that you hear them, but that you validate them. I don't know if I'm being too therapist-ish here, but.
So what's getting in the way of that, though? Just right. So let's flip that a little bit, because being a good listener is critical to being a great leader. I would say it's one of the number one competencies that you need to have. But what gets in the way of, we know that, like, if you ask any human and you said, do you think it's important to be a good listener if you're a leader? I think everyone would say yes. Mm-hmm. Even the worst listeners would say yes. It's really important.
The worst listener would said, what did you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh?
So what's getting in the way of that happening if we know that that's true?
I have an idea, and it may be because I'm kind of straddling the old way of doing business versus the new way of doing business, just by the sheer fact of my age, being 45, I think I've experienced a lot of the old world and now the new way of doing things. I think sometimes when people get into leadership roles, they think I don't have to listen. That's kind of a sign of weakness almost. Mm-hmm. It's like,
I tell you
exactly.
Yeah.
I tell you what to do, and mm-hmm. you do it because I'm the boss and you're not. So, and I think that, and it sounds harsh when you say it out loud. And I know some people would be like, of course not. That's a bad leader. You can't. But I've seen it happen. Like I've mm-hmm. been at places of work where people who are in leadership roles think that, like, I don't care what you have to say. This is the way it's done. Just do it and mm-hmm. don't worry about it. Like, I think actually verbatim, I heard somebody say that to somebody.
I'm actually quoting someone.
It was in retail, which makes total sense because mm-hmm. man, I've worked with some, this is not an explicit show, so I can't say it, but I've heard people say
we can't swear.
We can't swear.
No
oh, okay. Good to know.
We can. I'll just have to check the box.
Okay. No.
I don't want to check boxes.
Good to know. Don't want to have any E there.
Boxes. Okay. But yeah, I've heard people say stuff like that, and I'm sure it comes from frustration, overworked. Like, I'm sure the person who's in the leadership role has stressors that we don't know about, mm-hmm. working on them, thinking that way, and responding that way. But I think that's a mentality that, oh, I'm the boss now. All right, I don't have to listen. Just do what I say.
Mm-hmm. It goes back to the same thing. It's like a power trip. And mm-hmm. when you really dig underneath it all, it's an insecurity. If you mm-hmm. think you know it all, and you think it can be, I shouldn't say always, but it can be an insecurity that, I have all the answers and I'm the boss and I'm in charge and doesn't matter what you have to say. And it's also a major sign of a lack of, I guess, emotional intelligence is part of it too, because by dismissing your team like that and making them feel so unheard, it just is a ripple effect of them feeling like they can't come to you, them feeling like maybe not as motivated around the actual position, et cetera, et cetera.
there was some TED talk that I'm blanking on the title right now, but it was about self-awareness, and it's like 90 or 95% of people think that they're self-aware, but only 10 or 15% actually are. And I think that is that happens often in leadership too, where because we don't ask for feedback often enough about our own performance, we have this skewed self-awareness going on, where we don't realize things like being a teller versus a listener. I mean, obviously you can tell too, but you're not really understanding the real impact of your behaviors. So if you come in with a negative mindset, a bad attitude, egotistical approach, you don't always see the consequences. And, you hear a lot of like, well, this is just how it's always been done, so this is how we'll continue to do it, and not really realizing, but what if you did it differently? How much better could it be, right? So this negative mindset or lack of self-awareness, or those two going hand in hand, can be just really debilitating for people, and they don't even see it.
Yeah.
I have been transcribing our episodes, so we have transcripts available online for people, so we're more accessible for everybody. And it has been an exercise in realizing I am not as good of a speaker as I think I am, because there's a whole lot of so's and buts and likes and knows and like
I say way too often.
And as I'm typing it out or looking over the dictation, I'm like, holy crap-a-roly. Like I don't even know how anybody understands what I'm saying, because there's so many filler words in here. And I'm wondering if that's a tool that anybody uses for leaders to just kind of like, if you're going to be on a Zoom call or a Zoom meeting, record yourself and then send it to one of those transcribing websites and get it back and see, like, read how you talk and think about how people listen to you. Do you think that's a good tool, or is that happen, or am I just kind of...
So you're talking about impact, right? What impact are the words that you're using or the tone that you have having on your audience? Mm-hmm. I don't know if hearing it back would give the real impact to the leader. I think some of the greatest leaders are also the best at soliciting feedback from their people. Mm. That's how you know if what you are doing and how you're leading is working or not. And you have to create an environment where people feel like they can give you the honest feedback that you're asking for. It's easy to lie to someone about, yeah, you're a great communicator, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do here. And then you're like, I have no clue, I just need it. So I think the feedback piece is critical to great leadership. Otherwise, how do you know?
And how do you
get that feedback?
How do you get it? No, what do you hear or see as the biggest feedback that teams give their leaders of, this is where you can improve the most?
That's a good question.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a great question.
Thanks.
I don't know if this is the number one, but certainly this comes up a lot, is making time for people, for the team, for the individuals on the team. I'm a big believer, and I think a lot of great companies follow this mantra of employees first. If your employees are treated well, if you care about their well-being as humans, not just the 9-to-5 person that walks in the door, they are more likely to be faster at responding to clients, have a positive mindset walking around the office, go the extra mile when something needs to be done, raise their hand when someone needs an extra hand. So I think that's the piece that it's critical that we're focused on that. So I lost my train of thought on where I was on my point. It's happening.
It's a thing. Ralph did it. You're doing it. I'll probably do it in 5 minutes.
Yes.
So, but I think that piece of time and not prioritizing your people is detrimental to the success of your team, of your organization. So when I'm talking to people, let's say in a workshop, like, what's one thing you can do to improve your relationship with your teammates or engage them in a more meaningful way? The answers are often around, well, I don't really spend time with anyone one-on-one as much as I should, or I often have to move my one-on-one meeting with my teammates, with my direct reports, because something else comes up. And every little one of those moments is just like picking away at the trust that you have with your people. And the feedback that is given to the leaders or given to me about their leaders is, I just need more time. Like, I don't have any time with my manager. I don't have any time with the leader. I don't know really what's expected of me. I don't really know where I'm going here. I don't know what sort of opportunities are offered to me. I don't really have a good connection with my boss. It's fine, right? So it's the time that I would say, is at the top there of what needs to happen.
I was thinking too, though, doesn't some of that have to depend on the organization / time management of the leader, as well as the structure and culture within the company? Like, what are the demands and what's coming from the top onto that leader that could be partly the reason? It may not be that they don't want to have that time or that they're not trying to have that time. And I'm not trying to take the onus off of the leader, but aren't there external factors that make it extremely difficult for that person to prioritize that time with staff in some situations?
Sure. And that's what differentiates a mediocre leader from a great leader.
Right.
A great leader figures that stuff out.
Man!
Now we gotta check
the box.
Damn it!
Fired.
We were so close.
Mother.
So close. Well, all
now can I just
now.
explode now? Now can I really?
Now let's just say it all the curse words we can think of at once.
I like being authentic, people. I'm
right.
sorry.
Right.
I know.
Something that popped into my head that's kind of an undercurrent of the conversation we're having tonight is decentering yourself. And I think a good leader may have that skill of being able to decenter themselves in the conversations of, like, I'm not the most important person here. The team is and I'm looking at the microcosm of the team, because I know that team exists within a larger structure, but I think a good leader, the communication aspect, making time for their teammates or their direct reports, the not having the fear of failure, not being the expert, asking, what do you think? All this stuff speaks to me that this person is good at not making themselves the center of attention. That's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is the whole, this is a transition that every person who's ever become a people manager, a leader of people, leader of teams has gone through. The transition from me to we. It is, some people never actually make it, even though they are managing or leading a 100-person department, right? There is a transition that needs to happen to really be a great leader. That it's not about me anymore. It's not about me just being an expert in my function. It is about us as a team and my ability to lead the team and elevate the team towards this common goal. So I'm a big believer in leadership not being about the leader. It's about the people that you're serving, really, that you're working with.
The one thing I was thinking about, just adding on to the time piece that you were speaking of with the leader making time for staff, is being present, and how that can be connect with time, in the sense of one piece of that might be that when you do have time, or if it's limited time, or if you're stretched really thin, that when your staff come to you, and even if you can only take that 10 minutes, that you are connected and present with them. And that you're able to communicate that presence also to them, to feel that. It's just another piece to several things we've talked about today. Making them feel heard, making them feel that you care, and taking advantage of those, if they're, even when they're short time periods, to make that time, how many times can I say the word time? Make that time feel valuable to your team member,
right, yeah.
Even if it's not as long or didn't touch on all the things they wanted to as they would have hoped.
A really important thing that leaders can do to better manage their time is to set that expectation right away in the beginning of the conversation. Someone knocks on your door, you really don't have time to talk to them, but you want to show that you care what they have to say. Come on in. I have a hard stop in 10 minutes. Let's talk about your top main points right now. And if we don't get through everything, we'll revisit, tomorrow when I have more time. Put the computer down, put the phone away for those 10 minutes, and then end it. It's okay. Leaders are busy, right? This isn't a question about that, but setting those expectations and not letting those distractions get in the way. Because, we do that with friends, we do that with our kids, we do that with our neighbors. Like there's always something that is, distracting us. And when you do that with your employees, you're sending a really disengaging message to them. Like, okay, I guess it's time for you to look for another job because your leader does not value you. And do that too much. And no, go ahead.
Not to romanticize it too much, but snuggle in, kids. Let me take you on a journey.
Cuddle in.
I feel like there's some people that you talk, just expanding it out from leadership, but I think there's some people that we talk to just generally where you feel like they make you feel like you're the only person in the world. Mm-hmm. When you talk to them, it's like you can tell they're focused and they're listening, and you're like, you're their world. I'm wrapped in what you're saying. Yes, I'm paying attention. They're asking the right questions. They seem interested. And to boil that down to its essence and kind of use that in leadership, I think is an important tool, like we've been talking about. If you can talk to somebody and make them feel like they're the only person in the room, that goes a long way for people, gaining people's trust and like, wow, this person's great in this leadership role. Cause I feel like you've all been talking about, I'm heard, mm-hmm. I'm listened to, I'm a part of this team. They've got my back.
That's right. I mean, who wants to talk to someone that they don't feel like a connection to? And I'm not even saying like on this deep personal level, but are we connecting about the topic that is at hand right now? If we're not, then I'm wasting my time and I've got other stuff going on, And so when leaders are not giving their full attention, it's just so terrible. I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the self-awareness part. Like, I'm busy, I've got a lot going on, just come on in. I'm still typing, kind of looking up, kind of nodding, right? And that kills it. So the connection piece, to your point, Ralph, is critical. It's one of my personal values. So I feel very strongly about the connection piece. And I would say it's a top priority for great leaders.
Yeah. I've been in those meetings where I had to say out loud, hey, I'm not being heard right now. Because I repeated myself 3 times and the people were still talking about something else. I know how frustrating and aggravating and angry you feel when it's like, no, I actually have something to contribute to this conversation. And if you have to say out loud, I'm not being heard right now, everybody's failed in that room.
Yeah. Kristin, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to just comment that you've brought up culture. I do think culture is a big component of great leadership. Is the environment that people are working in even going to support someone's attempt at being a great leader? Is the culture going to support speaking up or making mistakes, or is the culture one that, slaps your wrist when you mess up, or, keeps you quiet because they don't want to hear your opinion? I mean, it's really hard when I talk to leaders who are in environments that just, I'm sure that there were some great leaders that came before our time here today, but the old school, just to generalize, that old school leadership, when you're in an environment like that and you're trying to push some new leadership ways of listening and, treating an employee like they're a real human and things like that, you can get super frustrated. And that is a point that a lot of people come to where they're like, am I even in the right culture? Is this even a good fit for me? I'm trying to be a great leader. It's not going to happen here. And that's sometimes when people leave. So to change that culture is really, really hard. It's a challenge.
I had that conversation, excuse me.
Right.
I thought I was going to sneeze earlier.
We don't have any commercial breaks, so you gotta power through.
That is working in a company where the culture is it's too much work and there's not enough support. And we're talking about their direct supervisor and some of the problems that my client had with that leader. And I did just bring it up as just to note, not that it's necessarily going to affect whether or not that individual stays in with the company or not, that, just something to think about too, that your supervisor, who knows if you're experiencing, the culture of the company and you have a lot of issues with the culture, but there could be things coming from the top onto your supervisor that are affecting their ability to be good at their job too. So now I'm kind of impressed with myself because I kind of just did all that before talking to the
expert here.
What?
Look at me.
Hi.
I know about
I'm amazing. It's okay. Celebrate yourself. I love it.
That was great. The culture thing is a big part of it, because what we're talking about can be extrapolated up to the top of the company. The CEO, whoever's in charge, same thing. Like, the whole company is your team. How are you setting an example? How are you creating the culture where everything we're talking about can happen in the company? And because it comes from the top down. And if people are seeing that the people in charge just don't care, why should I change? Because nothing,
right.
You could be mid-level management trying to change stuff, the culture with your team and doing everything we're talking about. It don't matter if everybody above you is saying, no, you don't have time to do that. Just do it the old way.
Yeah. There's a lot of energy to be spent if you're trying to push through that layer above you and change the world. People can do it, but it's hard. And it takes an army. This is where, like, the me to we is not just me to we from I'm the individual, now I have a team, but there's a component of I am now a part of a team of other leaders. And so when, when I run my workshops, it's like, you have to remember now that you are part of another team, right? So like, you do have influence. And this is what I try and get my mid-level managers to embrace and own, that this is not, you're not a victim here. If the layer above you is not leading in a way that you find successful or desirable, guess what? You have the power to lead however the hell you want to. Oh, I don't know if that's
hell's fine.
Okay, hell's
fine. Yeah, hell's fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So leadership is about owning your role and owning that influence. Often it is used to. Often it's not embraced, right? And so we say like, oh, the culture. I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. The culture is really hard to shift, and you still can lead and have influence and make change in your space. And that has a ripple effect. I wanted to bring up something that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, if I can add another, it's not another question, but to keep going on these thoughts. But I don't know if you guys have ever seen the TED Talk of Sean. I don't want to mispronounce his last name. S02E04, I think is how you say his last name. If you haven't seen it, it's such a good TED Talk, and he's hysterical. The concept is that we have our formula of success and happiness backwards. So in business, our leaders, our CEOs, our presidents, they want to be successful, right? And this is like an obvious statement. Yet to do that, we sometimes forget the happiness piece, and people leave feeling disengaged. We don't maybe get to where we want to go. Sean Acor's whole idea is that if we put happiness first, our success grows that much bigger. If we put success first, we are constantly chasing happiness, because if happiness is on the other side of success, and we're always moving the goalpost of what success means, we're never actually going to get to happiness.
I love that.
Wow.
But when you're happy first, it opens up all of the creativity and innovation and willingness to learn and grow and push, and all of these positives sprout out of happiness, including the success. We're more successful. So when I think about hurdles and obstacles, it's that we are prioritizing sometimes the wrong things in business. And, if I were to start, like my workshop series on, we're going to talk about happiness today, guys, I probably get a little flat, right? Like, that's not going to fly right away. You need to build some trust first. Although secrets out, if anyone's listening and wants to do the workshop, we are going to talk about happiness, but especially after the last year and a half, that to me is a key focus for people who are managing and leading teams, to focus on the happiness. And I want to hear your thoughts.
I love that. I think that's a really powerful way to think about success in life. Mm-hmm. And I can't say it any better than you did. When we put success in front of happiness, success, the goalposts always move about what success looks like. But
really Sean's words, but I'm just,
happiness. Well, they're yours now. Sean who?
Sean.
I'll link to it. And everybody relax.
It's my TED Talk. I'm going to just put my head. No.
Right. I'll link to it.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, but it makes sense. I think it's a part of what we both preach and to our clients. And when we do these shows is the self-care and the happiness part of it. If you're chasing something that's outside of yourself, you're always going to be chasing. Mm-hmm. If you're comfortable at home, then everything else is just icing on the cake.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm supposed to add to this, because honestly, I thought that was just
okay. Well, I'll give you another thought, Kristin.
Okay.
Here's another nugget.
Like, I got zip on here. You guys said it perfectly.
So the key takeaway, well, that's one of them, but another key takeaway is it's about the lens through which we look at life. And are we this is all about positive psychology. So are we looking through a positive lens or a negative lens, just to simplify? And he shares some behaviors and some exercises for people to do to help us start seeing the world through a more positive lens. And when we start seeing the world through a more positive lens, you won't be surprised to hear more positive things start to sprout from this, right? And so, you can flip on the news, you can look on your phone and look on social media, and sometimes it's just overwhelming how negative things are. And these people that walk around the office that are just negative and down, and for whatever reason, but that's the impact that they're having on their team. So when leaders walk in and they're coming in with this mindset, it is a ripple effect to their teams, and they don't always see this. That's a self-awareness piece again, but if you can see the world through not rose-colored glasses, like realistic, but look for the positive things, it can make a tremendous difference in how you lead, and then how your team is engaged, and ultimately how your team performs. So I encourage everyone to go take a listen too.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it also depends on how you define success. If success is only being defined by moving up in a company and money, then you very well may lose the happiness factor in that whole piece. But if you broaden the definition, you know how I love to broaden the definition.
You love broaden the definition.
Broaden the definitions.
Broaden.
We can broaden the definition, just like I like to do with the word productive, of success off of those types of things, and look at it more wholly, which includes obviously about. I use the B word.
Balance. Yeah, you
balance.
can just say
Ralph
balance.
doesn't like it. Balance between your
what is balance?
Your work life and your personal life, and how happy you are and how you're doing at your job. And you look at all the different components, your relationships, and you define success more broadly like that. I think that I'm speaking to kind of what you said, Sarah, just saying it in a little bit of a different way.
What I love about this research is that, yes, I agree with what you're saying from a personal standpoint. And there are a lot of business owners, CEOs, big wigs that would be like, I don't care how you define success, but I'm going to tell you that my success here at this company is by hitting this number. That's success. Which the point that I think is really key for leaders to know is that, okay, great. That's the number you need to hit. Guess what you should try and do first to get to that number even faster, in a more productive way, in a more efficient way, in a more effective way, to serve your clients better, to make more money, to go on and on and on. It is to have your teams be happy. And that to me it's intuitive to me. And a lot of people, I think, still who it's intuitive to me, guys, because I'm really smart. But it's intuitive to me because I like to think about helping people be happier. I think it's an important, to your point, Kristin, like that to me is part of the definition of success. Not everyone thinks that way, though. And I'm not like trying to get a 20,000 employee company to meet a certain number. But to have that research, to realize that if you want to be a great leader, you work on your teams being happy, your employees being, having their needs met. And that is just that is research that I want the whole world to hear and live by. What a much better place to be if people can start seeing the, life and business and relationships through a more positive lens.
But I think that's why she's good at what she does, because you do these workshops, how to translate me with my touchy-feely relationship therapist stuff, and you know how to take it and frame it in a way that businessmen and women, I guess, or corporate America, or whoever you're doing these workshops for, can hear you. I can tell by the way you just did that you know exactly how to translate what you're trying to say into the language that can be received and heard, still getting your message across.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you.
Sure.
And I think that's a good place to say, if this has been a wonderful conversation, and it's great. And if listeners want to learn more about you, the programs you run, your philosophy about leadership, and if they would like to engage you, maybe if they work for a corporation or company that may want to invite you to do your workshop with them,
yes,
where can people find you?
You can directly email me at sarah@coachingwithsarahk.com. Sarah with an H. There's too many confusing components of my name here. So SARAH@coachingwithsarahkay.com, or follow me on Instagram at
Coaching with Sarah K. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Everybody knows we're going to save time. People know how to get in touch with me and Kristin.
If not, go back and listen to any of our episodes.
And how you get in contact with us is in our show notes. We will put all of Sarah's information in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for this conversation.
I could talk to you guys for hours about this. It's been so fun. Thank you for having me.
And I know you could. That's why I had to cut it off. I don't even know how long we've been going. I think it's almost just about an hour.
It's been a while.
I think
Yeah,
so.
it's a
Yeah.
long one for us.
So I'll see what I can cut out. Probably every time I'm speaking.
My swearing.
And it'll just be you. Yeah.
Maybe the part where I almost sneezed and made a weird face.
Oh,
the
yeah.
part to cut
That's a
out.
good 5
I don't know
minutes.
what Sarah was saying something great though right now.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you. See you
And
next
we will
time.
see you next time.
Bye, guys.